you ready for it? Are you ready to ask? Are we live?
Yeah.
Yes.
Are we live
All
yet?
right. Yeah, let's now ask the question. Are we live?
Are we live, Shay?
Yes, we are live.
Right.
Good.
Condition met. Welcome everybody to 9 out of 10 testers, our mental health episode. So unfortunately, or fortunately for the audience, we have a lot of experience in this area, suffering from problems with mental health and being or not being supported by managers. So we have a lot to get through today. Some of it not so nice, some of it really funny. So let's get started. We are 9 out of 10 testers. You can find us on LinkedIn. You can find us on Twitter. It's at numbers 9 out of 10 testers. And we do this every month. We chat about things that happen to us at work. So for today, let's introduce yourselves. I'm going to mention your first name, but then if you could tell us where you work, what you do, where you live. Let's start with you, Hannah.
Yeah, my name is Hannah Schlander, and I work as a quality catalyst at Devoteam Creative Tech in Halmstad, Sweden.
Thank you. Veerle.
My name is Veerle Verhagen. I'm a software tester at Riskit in the Netherlands.
Thank you. Off you go, Shay.
Hi, I'm Shay Crompton, and I'm a senior quality engineer at Prima Assicurazioni in the UK.
And Chris.
I'm Chris Armstrong. I'm a product quality strategy manager at Provar, and I live in South Wales in the UK.
And I'm Sanne Visser. I'm also in the Netherlands working for Capgemini as a consultant. So let's start us off today, shall we? Mental health. Could you share with me the worst way a manager has reacted to any mental health issue that you have had? Anyone want to go first?
I don't have a rant about this. I mean, so because I come from like a background of computer games and things like that, where you have to, where everybody just toughed it out. You know, if there's no talk of mental health issues, whereas everybody's on the brink of burnout pretty much 90% of the time. The other 10% of the time they're dead. But as time has gone along, I've found when I've been able to speak to managers about mental health issues, and that's only been in the past few years, it's actually been really positive. And I think that's been a really interesting change. I mean, you know, today is could go a little bit sort of ranty, but it also could be a big love-in for all five of us and everybody else on the who joined us today, because things are changing, and that's really, really cool.
Right. So what created the safer, I can talk about this here option for you? Was that company culture?
It was my manager.
Person?
It was my specific person. I won't name him, but he was the first person I ever saw who signed in, instead of just saying, "Hey, I'm sick, I've got tummy issues," or "I'm, you know, whatever." They've gone, "Hey, I'm not feeling very strong mentally today, and I'm going to take a mental health day off." And I was like, "Whoa, that's a thing." And
yeah,
that was a massive change.
I'm going to circle back to taking days off for mental health later, because we do cover that. Any other anecdotes to share about managers dealing with being told there are mental health issues?
If I can relate to what Shay said, in the sense that I think it took me personally a long time to realize that mental health issues are a thing. So there have been assignments in the past where I essentially went home crying daily, and it never occurred to me to think, wow, this is a problem, and this is something that you can do something about. In my head, that was just like, wow, you really don't like this assignment. Well, tough. And it didn't really occur to me, like, no, wait, maybe there's something else going on here, and maybe you need to sort this out.
Yeah. Yeah. So then when you felt that way, what was the reaction towards the team, your managers? Was there any, did you tell them in the end?
No, I never did actually, because I was like, oh God, a fully grown woman going home crying. Like, what is that even? How do I tell anyone about this? So no, absolutely not. I was very cagey about that.
All right.
Yeah.
Chris or Hannah, anything to share there?
I mean, I had a bit of a stress bump last year where I had a really long day, and like I was so stressed out. I'm like, I can't manage all of this. And I brought it to my manager at the time, and she handled it so nicely. She's like, you're getting off this task now, and you need to only do things that give you energy, and like cut off the things that don't give you energy. So for example, this live stream gives me a lot of energy, so I'm still doing that because this is great fun. But it was just too much, and like being spread too many places where things just drained energy. And I'm a person who loves to have, I love being on the edge of having like a lot to do, but I also have a really hard time saying no. So that's a dangerous combination. But she really helped me, and I'm so grateful for that, because I think that would have gone really badly otherwise.
All right. Chris, anything to add there?
Probably only that I grew up in a place where we just didn't talk about these sorts of things, and therefore I didn't know about these sorts of things. I just thought, I'm a bit tired, maybe I haven't got much focus, I just, I'll treat myself to some nice food or whatever, and I'll be right as rain in the morning. And that would have gone on for, well, months on end. I mean, much as Shay had, the games industry was just kind of, you just keep on going. You don't talk about what you're going through. Obviously it's a weakness, right? So why would I possibly ever talk about those things? People would judge me. And it was only when I saw it up front in real life with a colleague of mine who, at face value, if you don't talk about it, just looked like they were getting nothing done. They were being lazy and they couldn't do anything. But actually, chatting things through with them, you're like, wow, everything you're saying I can resonate with. Every single thing you're going through, every experience, every time you're looking at something and you've got mental fog, and you feel like you've got no mental bandwidth to be able to do anything. Like, I had 5 spoons 5 weeks ago and I haven't replenished, stuff like that. You're like, oh, I really understand that. And it was only when I actually saw it for myself in real life that I suddenly understood what I'd been going through. Goodness knows how long. Like, I feel like I've been tired for 2 decades, but it's not just tiredness, but it was actually seeing it and talking it through all of a sudden opened my eyes.
So a lot of what you've been saying, all of you actually, is this was a very internal struggle for almost all of it. Opening up about it either wasn't done or has only recently happened. But there's been a lot of research done into these kind of stressing things that lead to overtiredness, brain fog, or even burnout, that it's an external issue and not an internal one. Do you think that message has landed in your brains yet? That, look, this is not a me problem, this is an environmental issue? Or is this still a me thing to you?
I think the default of going back to it's my problem is it'll be very, very difficult to get it to change that. I'm a mid-40s male who had a father who was very stoic, and so during his work years, his 25 to 30 years or whatever with one company, he never sort of sat down and said, hey guys, I'm having a hard time of it, despite me looking back now and knowing he must have been having a really hard time. So that's my example. And so to have come through that and then nowadays have to try and change my head around, that's a journey that I think I've only really just begun.
I think it's I think there's this really weird disconnect between physical health and mental health. So, like, as an example, before I went into tech, I had to take a job to pay the rent at a cookie factory. And one of the things that I had to do there was like lift these heavy heavy things with all the dough on them, lift them out of a machine and into the oven basically. And at some point, I realized that I was waking up every single day with completely numb hands. And so I went to the GPs and she said, I think you're developing carpal tunnel. And so I had to go to the bakeries and say, like, I can't do this work anymore. Like, you can give me other jobs in the factory, but not that. And I was able to be very firm about it. I was like, I'm developing carpal tunnel. That's really serious. I can't do this work. You can let me do other stuff. Whereas with mental health, it can be so difficult to pinpoint what is wrong and what is causing it. Whereas like there was no doubt about it. So I think that's really tough, and it makes it hard to find an external factor to sort of blame for how you're feeling and for how your mental health is deteriorating.
Yeah, because I think one of the main triggers, if I remember the stuff I've been reading, is that external locus of control. So feeling like you don't have a say in the type of work that you're doing and when to do it, when that goes away. And that can be very team and job related, right? It's not a you thing, it's a where I'm at right now with these people thing. And so it's like saying, look, I have carpal tunnel, I can't do this. Like, I can still do this work, but not in this company with these people. Would be a fair thing to say, like you did in the bakery.
Right, yeah.
It's like, you know,
hard.
it's where you go to say your brain is a muscle. Like, you know, you can't lift something because your muscles are broken or your arm is broken. It is a thing. And effectively, when you're low on mental health, that's kind of the same, isn't it? That muscle is strained to a point where it can't work properly. And if you think of it that way, it's like, wow, yeah, okay, I see it. But you don't see it. You know, my arm, if it's all bruised and I can't actually lift it up, wow, that's easy. You know, what Vila just said, but my head, I can't lift it up.
But it's exactly that, like the symptoms for, let's say, bad mental health or mental health issues, I think they are mostly internal. So for instance, if you feel like a lack of energy or a lack of joy in things that generally do give you a lot of joy, that is really hard for others to see and to pick up on. So the symptoms, in a way, almost have to be so dire and so severe that like you break down crying in a meeting. And that's when people start to think like, oh, wow, there's really something wrong with you. Whereas at that point, something has been wrong with you for a long time, but it can be hard to sort of prove in a way that there's something wrong with you. You know, like when you show up to work with your arm in a cast, like nobody's going to ask you like, well, is it really broken? Whereas if you're constantly tired and you can't concentrate and you say, I think I'm, you know, really overworked, then people might be like, I think you just need a weekend off and a good night's sleep.
Or they say, have you tried yoga?
Oh.
Have you tried mindfulness?
Or Pilates? Or
take a walk.
Yeah.
Take a walk in a forest.
Yeah. Anytime I'm feeling a bit down, I look out my window here in outside of my £500,000 house and my 4 acres of woods out there, and I think, yeah, okay. And then
I've got
I feel
so
better.
much to be thankful for.
Yeah.
Yeah, thankfulness, that's another one.
Oh,
Yeah.
God,
We tried gratitude journaling.
Oh, God.
And they're not necessarily bad things, but it's a context thing, right? Like something that works for you might be great, but that doesn't mean that it's going to work for somebody else. I think we can all recognize that we are different people who, even though it is a mental health thing, we're experiencing stuff differently, and how that manifests will be different as well. And just because I've seen and spoken to people who are depressed, and I've been depressed and this, that, and the other, doesn't mean that it's the same symptoms. It doesn't mean it's the same environmental factors. It doesn't mean that the things that trigger me are the same as you. And I think that's my biggest problem with people trying to fix things without understanding that. But me articulating what I've been through and what I'm experiencing is really hard, because putting those things into word is it triggers.
There's almost no language for it, and it triggers to explain it. Yeah,
and it's hard, and because like I said, you know, come from a place much to say as well, we just haven't seen it modeled for us very well, and so we don't know how to do it. And like, I want to talk about it because it's important. I totally understand the value of it, but I don't know how to sort of say, like, you know, sometimes I just feel cold even though it's not cold, or I just feel like a pressure, or things like that. And I can't. It's almost like I need to talk about the consequences of the things, but the consequences of the things aren't necessarily what's causing it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like it's.
yeah. No, but it's something Hannah and I saw actually. Hannah, because we put out a poll. Maybe you can kind of share what happened there, because it really threw us for a loop a bit, honestly, because we put out a poll. What did the question say again? If you're dealing with mental health issues, the solution is
practicing yoga,
get a
mindfulness.
meditation.
Yeah.
Practice more self-care, take more breaks. And then we had, I think, a lot of answers, and option C, practice self-care, really came out as a leading answer. And so
yeah, I mean, we were surprised with this, because we did write in the text before it, we did say, no, but really, guys, how do you deal with mental health at your workplace? No one answered, because we wanted to provoke, but felt a bit flat.
We consider them non-serious answers. We consider them like, this is a farce. This is what doesn't work. And like you said, Chris, this is confusing stuff, because I think we honestly got answers from a lot of people out there that practicing self-care is their solution to mental health issues, because the language is missing here, right? That's not enough.
Yeah, it might work for some people. I don't know, but I would imagine at least one person reading this saying, "Are you serious?" I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
I'd
wonder if some of the people who said, "Look, I go and I practice self-care." If many people feel that there's not the facilities for them to be able to speak their mind, so in other words, I go and practice self-care because I have to, because if I voice it, well, I either don't have the vocabulary, nobody's sort of shown me the vocabulary, or whatever, so I just go away and do it myself. I can't ask for help. I don't know how to ask for help. I don't know what to ask for, and I'm the same. I'm trying to learn how to talk about mental health and my personal mental health and things like that a lot more. But most of the time, up until now, it's like, okay, I'll go and put on Headspace and try and do some meditation for myself, or try and read a book, or try and do something. But it's unguided, because I don't know how to ask for guidance.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the thing. Just to have a quick kind of a story time break, because we had a bit of a thing about small things also being a big factor, and how small things can explode, especially when mental health issues are at play. There's something about music at work, on or
Oh my
off.
God, music at work.
What was this?
God.
There's my experience of that. So many people, I think, when we used to be in the office all the time, if you're in a fairly small office, there's somebody who thinks it's a good idea to play that music being played out loud is a really good idea, because everybody gets lifted by music, right? Nobody loses concentration, and my music lifts me up, so it'll lift you up. And
Yes.
So in this office, every Friday was music day, and it would be somebody's random Spotify playlist, which okay. And this was the marketing department, and then they put it out there that, hey, why don't we make every day music day? And all of a sudden, it was like opening the fire hose at them. You cannot do this. You will not do this. We tolerate you already on a Friday. Do not do this, because you will affect my way of working, and therefore, without saying it, my mental health.
Yeah.
And oh my God, I couldn't agree more. That would have been resignation time.
Yeah, fair enough. And I think it's little things like that. I remember one colleague in one room back when we were still all in the office, every single day, no matter the weather, as soon as she came in, she would close the blinds, and there would always be the same story about brightness and sensitive eyes, and it just absolutely drove me up the wall. And it really, like, I really remember wanting to physically hurt her, just for this simple action. And obviously that was me not being in a good state, but things like that at a point when you're already kind of in a tough spot, like music would drive me up the wall. Like I'm a silent working type of person.
I find this quite interesting though, because I think we kind of all agree about playing music out loud that is annoying, and we shouldn't do that ever at any office ever. But I do wonder. I think this is a really tricky subject, because I think in recent years there has been more, let's say, acknowledgement of people being neurodiverse. And when I say neurodiverse, I don't just mean some people are have ADHD and some people are autistic. I mean, like, we are starting to realize that brains work in different ways, and what we now call neurotypical might really not be typical, just sort of dominant in this culture. Yeah. So I do wonder, I think so far we have usually structured offices to be good for what we now call neurotypical people. However, that might also mean that a lot of people actually really don't work well in that kind of environment. So how can, if that is even possible, how can you create an environment where everyone feels good and that is good for everybody's mental health? I think that's probably really hard.
I think it is. And it's also, like earlier was mentioned, language is such a thing in this space as well. I mean, sure, there's a bit more recognition, but it's not something that is accommodated yet. So I think while we might recognize we have an issue there, there's not really any language to talk about it, let alone request accommodations for it. I mean, all of you were reluctant to ask for mental health days. So how can you even start discussing things like maybe a space where it's optimal, or sound, or any other thing with light? This is the stuff we don't have language for yet. There's no such thing as I'll go sit in the lights out room or something and do my work there. We don't have these things yet, let alone language for them. So yeah, how would you develop that though? I mean, like, part of this is I think also there's still a feeling. Let me ask the question: is there a feeling of guilt for you to talk about these things and ask for accommodations? So not just talking time off, but other things that would have helped you in the past, or you maybe want to ask right now, but don't because you feel guilty that you even have that issue.
I think for me, I feel like whenever I've had to talk about it regarding work, it's always felt like an excuse for not getting work done, which probably means it's too late. But because it comes across as an excuse, therefore it kind of does bring with it that sort of anchored guilt as well. And maybe I need to learn to pick up on those tells earlier so that I can say this is coming, so I can deal with it now. But you kind of feel that innate desire to try and power through and do those things, and maybe it'll be all right.
Yeah, but and not be the problem to someone else. That's a big part of it for me.
Yeah. And then how people react if they have to pick up the slack or whatever. Yeah.
Which honestly, if someone has indicated something like that, I've never ever thought, what a loser, why can't you do this yourself? I've always been happy to pick up that slack when needed. So it's like every time it has been indicated, it's never been an issue for me.
Yeah, and I think also it's important to try to pick up on when people are showing signs of burnout, because as you said, it's hard to talk about, and try to get things off their plate before they reach the proper burnout phase. Because you can normally tell, but I find that so much trickier now when we're remote, because when you're in person, you can pick up so much more on people's body language, and you can tell this person, there's something different. But doing that remote is tricky, because you don't really, people have the camera off, you don't see them. I mean, sometimes you can hear it, but that's really tricky as well. So I think it's important to sometimes just ask people as well, how are you feeling? Can I help you with anything? Without them having to ask, because some people will really struggle with admitting that it's a bit too much and wanting to power through.
Yeah, I have a bit of a red flag going off while you're saying that. It's not that I disagree with looking for signals and alerting on them, but there is such a thing as being protected when not asking for it. So that, and I've had this occur because I tend to be really busy, do a lot of things, and at points I will show tiredness and stress. And at every one of those points, people are like, "You're not working too hard, are you?" And I'm like, "No, these are things that give energy. Stop asking." And you get it so often that it becomes almost burdensome. It's like, if I'm not asking for help, please just butt out. So there's that. It feels like, it's protectiveness in a harmful way when it's that overly concerned. Like, not everyone shows the same signs, and the way I look when I'm happy is really, really busy and exhausted and a little stressed, but that's me being really happy.
I think you can only really do this with colleagues that you've known for a long time, that you kind of know how they normally are and how they are when they are happy.
I want to turn it around. I want to advocate for making the discussion about how are you feeling, how are you doing, such a normal part of the discussions you're having, that you don't have to be alert on behavior because you're going to talk about it anyway. Like, that's where I kind of want to go, where it's like, oh, I'm having my one-on-one. We're going to spend a few minutes on how you doing. Do you need any help mental health wise?
Yeah. I mean, we used to have this thing in our dailies. We would check in with how we're feeling, and you'd just say a number, nothing else. You can just say, like, what space are you in today, like mentally, and you can just say, today I'm the 4.
Structures, things like that, I think make a lot more sense than trying to see if somebody's in trouble. I think.
Yeah.
I would like to add, Sana, I think it is good to normalize the topic, but at the same time, I wouldn't be comfortable discussing my physical health with a manager or my employer either, because I feel that's none of their business. So I'm not sure if I would be entirely happy discussing my mental health with people that I really only work with. And I'm not sure I'd be super happy about that either.
I don't think it belongs everywhere. I think every company will differ, but it shouldn't be reliant on somebody showing signs of distress.
Right.
Because you might be protecting someone or helping someone without them asking for help. And as we all know, being helped without you asking is not help. That's just somebody being a know-it-all and fussing over your life when they have no right to be there. That's not helping.
Can we also go back to the question of guilt for a bit?
Guilt for asking for accommodation.
Guilt, right? I think I've got this other thing about guilt where it almost feels like if you are stressed out because of your work, if you are overworked, it's kind of okay to take time off. Whereas if your mental health problems stem from elsewhere, it kind of feels more difficult in a way, which is rubbish, because if I go out at the weekend and I fall off my bike and I break my arm, nobody's going to be like, well, you should have broken your arm at work, because now it's not legit to take time off. I realize it doesn't work that way, and yet somehow it feels like I should leave my own mental health issues at home and I can only have like work-related mental health issues at work, which again, I realize is nonsense, but it feels that way. The guilt is worse somehow when the problems stem from your personal life.
And even there's a double standard, because like if your mom dies and you're in bereavement, that's acceptable. But
right.
If you are depressed or you have other issues, that's something that's less easy to talk openly about and get the same sympathy and compassion for, I feel.
Yeah, people want the reason why. I mean, if you looking in, you have the perfect life and you're depressed, it's like, well, why? Like,
just
they're trying
stop
to
stop being depressed.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's so logic.
It's a thing as well, isn't it? Where people describe a situation to you and they immediately apply it to their own context.
Yeah.
And so they go, well, when my mum died, I took a day off and then I was back at the races. And it's not the same thing. And I think to your point before, Fiona, I think who we open up to, who we have that we can talk to about these things will be different. And it has to be someone that we are comfortable and confident to share that with. I mean, someone's mentioned in the comments, AJ, that there are places that have mental health first aiders, and that's a great thing.
That sounds awesome.
I've worked with places that have got mental health first aiders, and I didn't want to open up to any of them because they weren't the kind of personalities that I was comfortable being open and honest with. And they almost wanted to get that out of me. And you know, it's like the whole concept of when you realize someone's trying to coach you when you don't want to be coached. You can sort of see they're kind of leaning into these sorts of almost they've got this sort of body language and this sort of language, and you're like, you're not being real and normal with me, and I don't like it, so I'm going to actually shut up the shop a little bit. And it's the same with those people. Like, please don't intrude on me unless I invite you in. Like, it has to be a conscious thing. Yes, I need to find someone to do that with, but it can't be anybody. It just because it works, that manager works really well with those people, doesn't mean it's going to work for me. I have to go and find those people, and that's a difficult journey in itself.
Yeah.
But sometimes your manager isn't the right person. Maybe your manager is really rubbish at the people stuff. So you really aren't going to just open up those things. They might need to know, but I need to know that I've got somebody that I can share and be open and honest with. And that might not even be at work directly, but I need to know how I can escalate those things should I need to take that time off for whatever reason.
I'm not sure how it works in other countries. I mean, in Sweden, we have something that's called work environment representatives at work, which is someone who's selected by the people that work there and that have confidentiality agreements. So code of silence, you can't really talk about if someone talks to you unless they agree to. And you can bring up issues like anonymously with the manager. So you get to become this counterpart to people to be available for them, which is, I mean, it's not just mental health, but it could be if it's a situation that is stressing you at work that you feel uncomfortable with.
Yeah, but is that then adding, because I think that could make a massive cultural difference. And there are obviously a lot of differences already just across the three countries where we live. But is that adding safety to have this discussion, or is it, do you think not?
I'm not, I've had I happen to be a work environment representative. I've had a few talks. It's not much, but it's just a reminder that someone's there. But my workplace also offers this call service where you can get to talk to someone professionally if you want someone to talk to. And that's like not really questioned. And especially now it's been a pandemic. It's been, a war going on. So people are distressed for different reasons. And that's obviously affecting people's mental health. I think COVID's had a really bad time on that.
Because here in the Netherlands, for instance, through the company, what do you call the arbodienst? Anyway, you can actually go and say, look, I want to talk to a psychologist specialized in work and work stress factors. And you can get between 6 and 8 completely governmentally paid sessions to prevent mental health issues from happening. And you can request those very easily by just saying, look, I want to talk to somebody without sharing any other details. But I don't think having that has, well, Fiona, back me up here, changed stigma about this. It's still a thing to talk about. It's not easy to address. So having these things doesn't change the culture necessarily.
This is true, actually. And I know because I recently recommended this to someone, a friend of mine, and he was dealing with some issues. And I was like, you know what, because last year I was dealing with burnout and I had a few of those sessions and I could talk to a therapist and it was super easy and they were super friendly and it was completely free of charge. And I was like, this is fantastic. Like, everybody should do this, regardless of how severe your issues are, even if you don't have any issues yet, but you want to prevent them in the future. I think it is a great idea to go see a therapist and just see what comes out. And so I recommended this to someone that I know, and he went for one session and he even said, like, yeah, it was pretty good. And then I said, oh, great. And then he said, yeah, but I don't think I'll go back. And I was like, why? I was like, why not? If it was a good session. And he was like, yeah, they just wanted to talk about like my past, and like, I'm done talking about that. Like, I don't really care. And I was like, oh, that's a shame, because I think it would be good for anyone. Like, if you don't have any issues, doesn't matter. Like, they're not going to cause you any issues. It's just going to take a bit of your time.
Yeah, because I mean, at the time, it's a long time ago, it's 7 or 8 years ago, I went preventatively, because what had happened to me is that in a team of 4, I had 3 people either become overtired or burnt out. And I felt like, well, crap, if my entire team pretty much has crashed and burnt, how am I still here? How am I still staying upright? And everyone pretty much had the same thing, whereby they did not see it coming until they completely went up in flames and really had to recover for half a year or a year or more. Some people never went back. So I went there and we had 3 sessions. We had the discussion, and that was my question. How come they didn't see it coming? How come they couldn't stop? And how can I learn to do things that will prevent this happening to me? Because considering it's 3 out of 4, it might just be the situation we're in and the place we're working. And that really helped at the time. So yeah, it's very different, I think, in how easily you go and see these people and structures, and you phone up Hannah, you're like, Hannah, I'm feeling depressed and I need some time, and how do I talk about this to my manager? I think just having these things does not make it easier to talk about or to deal with.
I think
this is only fairly, in looking back over the 20 years I've been in industry, this sort of real focus that or understanding that mental health is important and is vital to your workforce. Healthy mind, healthy workforce, healthy application, etc. I think it's only in the past, let's say 5+ years, only just more than 5 years, where this real open push to sort of go, hey, it's okay to have to talk about mental health, and people who are saying it's okay, I've got problems and I'm telling people about it, and therefore, if you want to say anything, that's fine, but be yourself. But I'm okay talking about it, and I hope that gives you strength, buddy. That's only been in the last 5 or so years. It really has. And so, we're talking about all these initiatives and whether or not they work, and people going, yeah, I've tried it, but I'm not, or whatever. You know what? This is the trickle before the flood. This is where we are right now, I think. And so, having companies setting up mental health first aiders, the ability to take a day off, as AJ was saying, just a duvet day or whatever, that's becoming more acceptable. And I think as leaders in leadership positions, we have to be able to say to somebody, look, if it isn't working for you today, you can ring up and just say, hey, look, I'm ill, I'm done. Yeah. And that's okay. You don't, I say it to the people I lead, particularly youngsters, I don't need you to ring me up and go, I'm dying, I'm just going to take today off, my leg fell off. You don't need to do that. If you just ring up and go, hey, dude, I'm sick, I'm going to go, okay, get well. Same thing for mental health. Yeah. Us as leaders need to make our teams feel safe to go, mate, it's just not working today.
Is that a thing where you phone up work to say that you're ill? Like, if you even if it's true. I mean, when you phone up work when you're ill, sorry, this sounds so weird. When you phone up your work when you're ill, and you kind of try to make your voice sound a bit more pathetic than it really is, because you're afraid that otherwise they will think you're not really ill.
Which is then people lie on the bed upside down, so it gives them a different voice.
Yeah. Which is really odd, because you generally don't even speak to somebody you actually work with. You speak to some agency that's like the intermediary for your company.
No, I do because I work for a very small company, and because it is a small company, we know each other and we trust each other. So there is absolutely no reason why people would think I'm faking it. But at the same time, it kind of feels like, oh, if I don't sound direly incapacitated enough, then they're gonna think I'm not ill enough to take a day off. But I think that's the whole point of this whole session, being ill enough. Like, what is ill enough?
If you're
Doesn't
ill,
matter.
you're ill. Yeah.
Right.
If
I
you ain't
mean,
feeling it, dude, you're not feeling it. Take the day off. It's not.
Take
That's
the day off.
that's got to be okay. You know, this whole phrase. It's
Yeah.
okay to not be okay. That's got to be a freaking tattoo on everybody, where on everybody's forehead. So when they're looking at somebody, the other person can say it's okay
Yes.
to be not okay.
And yet
doesn't
we
need a
and
reason.
yet
And
we
yet-
live we live with the realities of a capitalist society. Freudian slip there.
Nice.
We
Yeah.
live with the realities of I don't have to tell anyone why I'm red in the face. That's
The
my
beatings
comic
will continue
convictions
until
right
mental
there.
health improves.
Okay, so we live with the realities of a capitalist society where we have to be productive from time to time. And so I think it's okay not to be okay. I actually saw a tweet about this today, where somebody had the slides that said like, oh, bring your authentic self to work as long as it doesn't impact productivity. And I think the same goes for it's okay to not be okay as long as you get your work done.
Impact productivity.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. I mean,
Oh.
I don't know about you guys, but I tend to, if people are saying, I really don't feel well today, like during a daily, I'm like, stop working then. I mean,
Right,
what are you
yeah,
doing
go.
here? It's like, well,
So-
go to
so-
bed. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
So do we put this pressure on ourselves more than the system does it? Like this is
I
a
don't
system
know.
I guess we have created collectively, and so maybe we should stop creating that system right now.
I was
Yeah.
having this discussion at lunch where people were laughing about somebody's team making the team's meetings inaccessible to them because they were supposed to be resting because they hadn't been feeling well. That was an interesting discussion to me because it was like, did you not feel you could stay away? And then they were, no, they were being kind. I told them I wasn't feeling well and they were making sure that I wouldn't log on. It's like, but you were still seeing that they were doing that. So you were still logging on. What's making you push through this feeling of being unwell to even have a team feel like they have to do that? Like,
Yeah.
You got some problems there, mate. You go and take one of these eight calls with somebody and go and have a chat, because that's if somebody I'm triggered by that. You know, your team has to like hide your
their
meeting
calls
key.
from you.
But at the same time, what we've talked about just a little while ago about somebody coming in and trying to solutioneer your mental health to be better. They're solutioneering that person's mental health to be better. So what's the balance there, guys?
And these people were sitting there like, oh, that's so sweet. I'm like, that's not sweet. That's a problem all around, from your side, from their side. This is unhealthy in every way. It's like, please don't do this. But I think it does bring me to this new thing. Part of this issue, I think we've talked about the culture of productivity being insane, of course, capitalist society. We've mentioned this in a few previous episodes, but there's a new beast that I want to bring into mental health, and it's called perfectionism. Because I kind of think the lunchtime meeting I was a part of was driven not from I'm sick and I need to stay away, but from if I don't do this way, it's not good enough and I can't let people down in that way. And it comes from a perfectionistic, anyway, from that type of thinking. Has that been true for any of you? Yes. In what way?
In the way that I am a black and white thinker, so it's all or nothing for me. And if it's not all, then that means it is nothing. So if I don't do all the things on my to-do list, it means the day has been a disaster. I have failed.
Wow.
Yeah, I can see how that might be an issue.
Yeah.
It's also a thing, isn't it? In certain tranches of ADHD, there's the whole sort of expectation that I can't finish a job in the time that I've got, so I'm just not going to start it because I can't see the point in doing that. So like an idea of being like the dishes, I've got 30 minutes before something needs to happen. I can't do all those dishes in 30 minutes, so I'm not going to touch them because it's just too much. I don't want to start something I can't finish.
Is that an ADHD thing?
Yeah, I've done some. I'm sure it's not exclusively ADHD, but it's certainly falls under that spectrum for me on that line of thinking. And you're right, the perfectionism is thing because you don't want to do a bad job, and we're back to guilt again. And you know,
Back to guilt again.
it's almost better to do nothing and just feel like, oh, I'm a bit crap, than to actually do something that was rubbish, and just so that I can keep all the guilt and rubbishness on myself and not project that anywhere else. Joe, like I don't know if that's relatable, but that's certainly how I work.
There's a generational thing there as well. I mean, there is also with mental health and stoic behavior, but also younger people are indicating more perfectionistic tendencies than older people are. So that's another interesting factor in this whole discussion, where
social media and Instagram and positive posts and you find your happy things and you do those things and you project it online and look at all this great stuff about me.
Yeah, so if you're not living up to that wonderful, perfect level of life and career and job and relationship.
This is the reason I don't have Instagram, by the way. It's not because I'm an old lady who doesn't understand tech. It's because
a mental health thing. I think that's a good excuse.
No, but I swear to God, it is because I feel that like Instagram is like the heroin of social media. Like it does the most damage and it's the most addictive. So I just don't touch it.
Yeah. And I think maybe that's part of why we're seeing mental health discussions coming up more, because maybe this more perfectionistic younger generation is dealing with it more because of these perfectionistic tendencies. Any theories on that?
Life has never been busier, has it? With being bombarded all over the place with social media, advertising companies have really got their game going now, so everything is trying to get you to buy their product, and then the expectations at work, and therefore you're seeing the perfect people on the TV, you're seeing the perfect people in your stream, and at school for children or at work, nobody's telling you, hey, behind that perfectionism is a hang of a lot of effort. You're just seeing the shop front of a hell of a lot of work behind that. And so, it's okay for you to not be perfect now. That perfectionism, nobody's really saying, hey, dude, you don't have to get it right first time. There's that pressure there. So yeah, I guess coming around to people's mental health and having to talk more about mental health is perhaps, because we're bombarded and told people that, hey, I was just born perfect. No, you're not. You got 50 freaking people behind that camera who are watching you and touching you up and everything like that. So don't tell me that bullshit. And you can, and then if we don't have to have that mental load put on us.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm still concerned though. Like it just feels like you said earlier, that there's this floodgate that's about to open, and that there's so many people, honestly, that feel incredibly fragile but don't seem to be addressing it. Any good ways you've found to kind of approach your fellow humans and give them a little tap on the shoulders and say, look, if you do need help, or talking from me listening to you, any good approaches there that you've found that will work?
I think maybe being open yourself about when you're struggling, so that it's relatable and that people see that it's okay. I think that's probably the easiest way to get people to feel comfortable talking about it. Saying that, like, oh yeah, I'm having a really tough day today mentally.
I think that's great if you're both in a space where you can do that. But we just mentioned that a lot of our workplaces are not that safe usually, or have prejudices towards this type of communication still. Any ways of...
I think another point in that is that usually, well, not usually, but often when I hear someone is having a hard time, I don't want to dump my problems on them, because I'm like, you've got enough on your plate as it is. So I won't reach out to that person. So if you're talking about like a sort of general openness about this kind of issue, then absolutely. Yeah. But as a short-term plan to sort of like get people comfortable with that, I'm not sure that would work instantly.
Yeah, you probably need quite high psychological safety.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, actually, I think probably you covered what I was about to say there, Hannah. Is like, I'm big enough and ugly enough to stand in the room and go, hey, look, I've got problems, and it's okay. If you look at me, I've got mental health problems, and I can talk to anybody about it on the side if you want, or if you got a problem, come to me. making just that general announcement, it is leading by example. It's what you do with children. It's like you don't go and do this to change change the way they do something. You go, hey, look, come along with me, let's go on a journey. And I'm able to say, hey, look, I'm on a journey of mental health recovery and strength, helping my strength. So anybody else want to chat, come along. And I'm able to, you can talk to me, or I'm able to give you a couple of pointers that have helped. And I think having that honesty, but also it's organizational. Organizations can't be, what is it? What companies doing environmental stuff just for the show of it is, it's greenwashing. Is there something like mental washing or something like that out there that companies who are saying, hey, we've got the Samaritans number put up on the wall everywhere. We've done our mental health stuff. Yeah.
I feel the color
health coaches.
I feel the color of mental health would be some kind of pastel washing.
Beige washing.
Oh God! Here, can I ask a philosophical question to all of you? And it's a hard question.
If you'll hang on to it for a second,
All
Chris,
right, yes.
anything to add there? How to approach people that are struggling?
Wow, that's difficult. I mean, without saying, without coming the way coming and saying, hey, I've got a problem. I don't know another way. If it comes back around to saying, you okay, mate?
Yeah,
I'm here if you need me, or something like that. And hoping they don't turn around and snap your head off, going, oh, I'm fine. Blah, blah, blah.
That's the direction I was going. I mean, in any situation, no matter how safe or unsafe, I think you can always just briefly say, look, if there's anything you need to talk about, I'm here if you need me, period. Don't dump anything of your own. Just mention that I'm here.
It's something I appreciate it, right? When someone says they're available or they're just checking, even if someone says they're thinking of me, sometimes that won't fix me. Gosh, no. But just knowing that someone's like checking in, like even if, thanks, that's nice. Great. Yeah. At least, I mean, I've done it where I've just sent hugs to people and there's no like, but now tell me in details everything that's going on. That's what I'm really here for. I want the juicy gossip. No, I don't care. Like I care if people that I care about are okay, and I just want to let them know that. That's how I do it. And for some people, they might think that's rubbish and they couldn't care less.
I think that's great advice, actually. Yeah.
For me, what? I have to say, I have to jump in there because you're saying something that's really sort of just making me want to go, hey, because I've had a couple of weeks where I've been a bit low on mental health, and each and every one of you have reached out to me and not sort of gone, hey, let me try and solve your issues. But in every case, it's just been, I'm here for you if you need to jump on a call, or in Chris's case, hey, bro, sending hugs and, all of that. And, feeling that from people, it helps you move forwards. And that's really cool. So that's really awesome, and that's how you all have approached to me, and that's been, really. I thank you for it.
Instinctually, we did the right things, guys. Yes.
Awesome.
I told you it'd become a love-in. Sorry, everyone.
Fiona, your philosophical question, is it going to be a short one? Because I want to start.
Yeah, I'm going to make it so short. It's the answers that are long. You know how weirdly, when we talk about health, and let's just take physical health as an example because it's a lot easier to think about. When we talk about health, quite often we end up talking about bad health. And so now we're talking about mental health, but what we end up talking about is mental health issues. And thinking about it, I'm like, what does mental health look like? What does good mental health look like? I love it.
Wow.
No, but I mean, it's, I'm not saying I don't get stressed. I'm not saying I don't, but I've never crashed and burned. I've never had it become a medical issue. And I consider myself highly resilient. Possibly that's going to end someday, but I do think I have a lot of really good mental health habits that keep me upright. And I wish I could teach them to the entire world. But again, this is personal. I have things that work for me.
So how is that it? Is it a high amount of resilience?
I think it's a muscle.
Is it a lack of issues? What is it?
It's a muscle you can build when it's internally caused. but there are circumstances, like I'm specifically talking burnout, stress related. Of course, there are things that you're either born with or that your brain chemistry causes. That's different. I'm specifically talking burnout here and resilience against that. Yes, you can become more resistant.
But now we're still talking about a mental health issue. You see what I mean? Like every time you talk about mental health, you end up circling back to issues,
Right, so let's
or the
call it
lack of it.
resilience. You can build resilience to kind of even out the ups and downs of the stuff that happens in life. And there's personal ways that will work for you. You can find them. And psychologists are incredibly helpful in helping you find them. I think we'll leave your question there for now, because I kind of want to round us up. So thanks everyone for that little bit. Once again, this was 9 out of 10 testers. You can find us here every month. And next month, we are going to be talking about rants,
Our pet peeves.
annoyances, things that don't work. We are going back to our roots. The reason this entire webcast started, we're just going to talk about the things that works that annoy the crap out of us and have a wonderful ranty session just before the summer break. So for everyone, how can they reach you? Hannah, if people want to talk to you, have any further questions, how do they reach you?
They can find me at LinkedIn. Just search for Hannah Schlander and add me or send a message. Either one is fine.
All right. And Firla, how do people find you?
You can find me with my full name as seen here on the screen on LinkedIn. You can also find me on Twitter at Witch of the Test.
Thanks. And Chris, how do people get in touch?
So on LinkedIn and Twitter, I am Christovskia. If you can't spell that, don't worry. Go to 9 out of 10 testers on LinkedIn and Twitter, and I'll be tagged there.
Yay, well done. And Shay, how can people rant at you?
So I'm at Shay Mouse on Instagram, yay, and Twitter, and just about every other socials. I'm on LinkedIn, and most recently, I'd love to do a shout out to Lee, who gave us a channel on the Tester Hangout Discord. So there is a Discord now, a channel on the Tester Hangout. It's 9 out of 10 testers channel.
Wow.
Hit us up. We'll put out the Discord invite on, I guess, somewhere socially, but definitely come and join us, come and chat. Sebastian's here from there and has been very active with us on Discord. So keep it coming,
great.
people.
So you can find me at Simply Sana on almost all the socials, and this at 9 out of 10 testers. That's the number 9 out of number 10 testers. And yeah, we'll respond as soon as we can. We love all of your comments. We love you for watching. We will see you again next month. Thank you so much, dear audience. And thank you,
And we got stickers.
Oh, and
See
we
you
have
later.
stickers.
We have
Yeah.
stickers now.
Stickers are gonna happen.
We're going to be
send
at some
you-
events in the coming weeks. That's what we wanted us
Yes,
to
if
say.
you run
yeah.
into us at any of those events, ask us for stickers.
We will have them in our pockets.
You won't even need to ask. We'll be distributing them to anyone with hands and even anyone without.
Yes. All right. Thanks, everyone. See you
All right,
soon.
take care. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.